Hello and good afternoon. My name is Martin Cowart, and welcome to Noonday Meditations and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour, where we gather together every day at noon, Monday through Saturday, right here on Facebook Live to love and support each other through this pandemic. So thank you again for joining me today. It's always a pleasure for you when you drop in. There's no way we can get through this pandemic and all the pain and the suffering that it's brought on to most of us, all of us. I don't know anyone who has not experienced pain and suffering at some level brought on by all the disruptions of this worldwide pandemic. Hey, how are you doing, Hassan? Nice to have you join us. I'm doing very well. How about yourself? How is your day so far? And thank you for joining us today. Where are you located? Are you in where are you? Are you in what part of the world do you live in? I'm curious. You get a chance, let me know where you are. So it's nice that you dropped in. Um, it's all and I want to get to that. Is all this pain and suffering really necessary? I mean, we're the world is the people in the world are going through a quite bravely, I might say, quite courageously. Let's see here. I'm doing. Oh, great! You're from Bahrain. All right. I just got home from work. Okay, very nice. Well, I'm glad you could join us because normally it's hard for you. But I know that you work a lot, and I know it's hard for you to join us with your work schedule. So I'm really glad that you're home and you can be with us today, and we can talk a little bit about. It's just exciting to have someone from across the planet join me for this conversation about suffering and what is suffering and why do we need? Is this necessary? All the suffering and the pain that has come up from this epidemic, this pandemic that's it's just facing all the fear. Many of us right now are beginning to feel some real deep fatigue from it. So I feel like for me, these noonday meditations have taken on a whole new meaning. They really ground me with a sense of who I am and my purpose. And I hope that it does the same for you, which is what I discovered going through my dark night of the soul. I think we spend most of our lives thinking we have a very immature relationship with the divine, with God. And I know for myself, sometimes I wanted to get on the good side of God. I wanted to create an intimate relationship to create kind of a superior position in his kingdom, so to speak, because I had this very sort of immature view of God that was outside of me, that was judging me, and if I was a good person and nice and do what I was supposed to do, I would get things, and I'd even pray that way. Oh God, I'll make good grades and I'll be a good person to my parents this week if you'll give me a new bike. And it doesn't really work that way, but we grow up thinking that way. We kind of grow up thinking there's something we can do, we human beings can do to get into good standing with God. And the truth of the matter is there's nothing we can do. We're already in good, and we're on this journey called life to go into a deeper relationship to God. So if I had this belief that I've always been somewhat of a guy who is a man who was interested in having a deep spiritual connection to God, having a relationship with God, and that's evolved over years. As I've evolved over years, and that relationship has evolved. But probably one of the most evolutionary times was when I went through what's known as the dark night of the soul. And believe you me, when I was in that space, I was angry with God. I was furious with God. How could you do this to me? I mean, it was like the universe had attacked me and put me in this deep, dark depression and despair that I felt I felt like my life was meaningless. I felt like I was of no meaning. I was worthless in my life. It's a profound, the dark night of the soul is a profound sense of loss of meaning in life. It's quite painful, and it's usually triggered by some painful event, such as the loss of a loved one, loss of your. For me, it was the loss of my mother and the my financial failure. They put me at the edge of bankruptcy, and I was like, why me? Why is God? I've been such a good person. I've been such a nice guy. Why is God punishing me like this? What have I done? I mean, I remember distinctly. I remember one time sitting in the churchyard at St. Paul's Chapel in such despair, angry with God for putting me in. After all the work I did at St. Paul's Chapel, and you get this to me, I was mad about it. But fortunately, I had a spiritual guide to kind of guide me through it and explain what it was. And I did a little research on it, and I realized, wow, this is just part of the evolutionary process. And that's why I want to talk about it today, because it's around the idea, is suffering necessary? Well, it was certainly necessary for me to force me to go deeper inside and see who I was, to get still, get to know me, get intimate, and be able to love myself. Otherwise, I never would have done that. None of us are going to take the time out of our busy lives if everything is moving along nice and smoothly. If we're getting all of our egos getting all of its needs met, and we're driving a nice car, and we've achieved all our financial goals, and we're having great times with friends and going to the. I mean, who's going to stop in the middle of all that and take a look at yourself? You just not, because there's no reason to. But COVID-19 and the pandemic has done it for us. It has forced us to stop and look around and look at ourselves and look what we've created. And we've created a pretty toxic world. So there's no misunderstanding of what we created. God didn't create this toxic world. We did. And when we can begin to sit in the suffering and take responsibility for our part in the creation of this toxic world we live in, social economic systems that are so unequal, an economic system and structures that are built strictly for the more fortunate. And it's painful, but we created it. We human beings. There's no other them out there. I know we want to say that, okay, that party did it, or that country did it, or that species did it. No, everyone, because we're all one. Remember I said the other day, or I have said, I learned it from Eckhart Tolle recently, human beings are many humans, one being. But the human side has created a very toxic world, and now we're having to sit in it. And you know what? It is painful. It's probably as painful as a poor whale that's got a belly full of plastic that we put there. Let's get real here. So we've created suffering for others, and now it's coming back to us. We created this world exactly as it is today, and it's pretty toxic. And the universe is saying, stop. The divine mother is saying, you're going to go sit in your rooms and you're going to be grateful for what you got. And you're going to quit destroying it. You're going to quit polluting it, and you're going to quit attacking each other. You're going to learn to love your life and love yourself and because I've made such a world of beauty and abundance. And we can create that too. Just as we can create a world that's as toxic as we've created, we can create a world that's just as nurturing and loving and a lot more fun to live in and a lot more exciting. And I think that's what we're doing. It seems to me like COVID-19 is forcing us into looking more deeply at ourselves. It's forced the world, humankind, into, let's call it, a collective dark night of the soul. And make no doubt about it, people are in pain, particularly some of the people on the margins, people of color, and people who are disabled, and the elderly, where this virus has ripped through that community. And people, over 170,000 people in America alone have died unnecessarily, really, because of lack of leadership, because of the toxic environment that we have created. We weren't ready for this, and now we're paying the price, and it's painful. And it seems to be what I'd call necessary suffering to some level, but it doesn't have to be. But we've also created some unnecessary suffering, but it wasn't created by God. The necessary suffering, the COVID-19, was created to make us stop and take a look. We have made it more painful. We have. So we stop every day and we come together and we take a look at our participation in the creation of the toxic world. We own it. We take responsibility for it. As mature men and women, people who have grown, who have evolved into more wholehearted people, we're able to take responsibility for our participation in what we've created today. And when we do, the beauty of that is, together we can also participate in creating a world that's more favorable to human life, that treats people more equitably. Everyone has an opportunity to enjoy the wonders of life and the wonders of this planet, and we can share them. We move into a shared sense of purpose and meaning. I want to read a little bit today from what from Richard Rohr's writing, which I thought was pretty cool, around the idea of necessary suffering. Give me a second here. He's not even doing well. He's not even doing well. Here we go. This is from Richard Rohr's Daily Meditation. Richard Rohr is a Franciscan brother and a Roman Catholic priest, and he's the founder of the Center for Action and Contemplative, the CAC, the Center of Action and Contemplation. And he's just a beautiful spiritual teacher and guide for people who are, for all of us who want to get deeper within ourselves, to discover a deeper meaning in our lives, so we can live more fully. We can live more. We can be, our lives can be more fulfilling, more full of joy, and more full of excitement. That's why we do this. It really isn't, so we can have a really wonderful life and support each other. We can take time out of our busy schedule to love ourselves and love each other. That's what we do. Isn't it great? Order, disorder, reorder, part 2. It must happen to us. Sooner or later, if we're on any classic spiritual schedule, some event, person, death, idea, or relationship will enter our lives that we simply cannot deal with using our present skill set, our acquired knowledge, or our strong willpower. It will probably have to do with one of what I call the big 6: love, death, suffering, sexuality, infinity, and God. Spiritually speaking, we will be led to the edge of our own private resources. At that point, we will stumble over a necessary stumbling stone. As Isaiah calls it, we will and must lose at something. This is the only way that life, fate, God, grace, mystery can get us to change, to let go of our egocentric preoccupations and go on the further and larger journey. Wow. Doesn't that seem like what we're going through right now? We're being forced to let go of all of our egocentric preoccupations. Yeah. COVID-19 is bringing that to the surface. There is no practical or compelling reason to leave one's present comfort zone in life. If it's working for us, why would we? Nor can we force ourselves into the second stage of disorder, though we must certainly be open to it. Any conscious attempt to engineer or plan our own enlightenment is doomed to failure simply because it will be ego driven. Lord, didn't we all try, any of us on this spiritual journey? I know I have, did my damnedest to enlighten my ego. That's what I mean about getting in some kind of spirit superior position with the divine by doing some of this work. And it's just nonsense. But you got to try it enough and keep failing at it before you realize this is not the direction. You need a dark night of the soul to wake you up to a truer way of doing it. We will try to succeed in the midst of our failure in order our time in disorder. But unexpected weaknesses, failure and but unexpected weaknesses, failure and humiliation force us to go where we never would otherwise. Isn't that true? Aren't we all doing something we never would have done otherwise because of COVID-19? I know I am. I know I am. I used to take for granted, like, oh, it's a beautiful day, beautiful Sunday. Let's get some friends and go to the beach. And I did it all the time. And it was just part of life. But last Saturday, I've been very careful about who I hang out with. Two really dear friends and I went to the beach, and it was so precious. There was a whole different essence to it, a whole different meaning to our time together, a much deeper appreciation for our relationship and the world around us, the ocean, the people at the beach, the whole experience for us, all of us, it was amazing, had so much more meaning. It was a deeper meaning to the event. We must stumble and be brought to our knees by reality. God comes to you disguised as your life, as my friend Paula Darcy wisely says. We must actually be out of the driver's seat for a while, or we will never learn how to give up control to the real guide. It is the necessary pattern. COVID-19 has pushed us out of the driver's seat. We've all come to know we're not driving this big bus. There's a power bigger than us that's driving the bus. And we better stop and pay attention to it. And it's a much better and more exciting way to live when we do. There must be, and if we are honest, there always will be at least one situation in our lives that we cannot fix, control, explain, or even understand. Normally, a job, a fortune, or a reputation has to be lost. A house has to be flooded. An illness has to be endured. Some kind of falling, what I call necessary suffering is programmed into the journey. The dark night of the soul, which was discovered by St. John on the cross hundreds of years ago, was the part of the journey of life, the evolutionary journey of the human soul. So it was for me and for anybody that's ever gone through it. And it seems like to me, this COVID-19 is the big dark night of the soul for all of us. No matter where we've already gone through something in the past. Many of us have. Most of you haven't, probably. But this is this is putting everybody in the world, rich or poor, black or white, gay or straight, although it has disproportionately hurt certain parts of our society, and that's painful in itself. But the impact of the suffering is on everyone. And it's taken up the egoic perception that it's running the show. It's running the world. And it's not. It never has been. But we were under the false illusion, and we created all kinds of systems and structures that were very painful and created a very toxic world by that belief that we human beings are the ones who dominate and run the world. And we're having a great big wake up to find out that ain't true. By denying our pain or avoiding unnecessary falling, many of us have kept ourselves from our own spiritual depths. Read that one more time. By denying our pain or avoiding our necessary suffering, many of us have kept ourselves from our own spiritual depths. I would say that's the problem. That's revealed often in AA and 12-step recovery, because what happens is that we're in pain, and the alcohol momentarily relieves the pain and suffering that we're going, only to come back doubly worse. Because we don't want to face the pain and suffering. We think something's wrong with us. We need that alcohol to relieve us. But we discover, once we let it go, that pain, that suffering was an opportunity to evolve into a higher level of consciousness. It was a necessary part of the journey. We still want some kind of order and reason instead of suffering's life inherent disorder and tragedy. That's what we want, isn't it? But we have to be willing to come and sit in this discomfort together and acknowledge that people are in pain. Our brothers and sisters are, and it doesn't have to be. So how do we do that? How do we actually get still and sit in that? We do it through contemplative prayer. We contemplate beyond the ego thinking mind, a deeper, we open our hearts to a deeper place within us and invite the divine to come forward, because the divine wants to come forward, but you can't will it with the mind. The ego can't create it. We can learn, through practice, how to create what I might call all of the conditions. And that's what we do with the contemplative practice. And with enough practice, through surrendering, through letting go of the egoic mind, we create the space within us for the divine presence to be known to us by quieting the ego thinking mind. And that divine presence is our power, to change the world. And when we step into that power, there is no doubt at the deepest level within us of our purpose and the meaning of our lives. And that is an exciting way to live our lives. So thank you for joining me. Anything anybody want to say before we meditate? So I don't know if you can hear all the kids in the neighborhood playing outside my window, but it's just wonderful, isn't it? Your egoic mind might try to use that as a distraction. Try and let it, we're not trying to quiet the world, we're trying to quiet the mind. And if we can quiet the mind, then we can welcome the noise of life, the noise of children playing, dogs barking, garbage trucks. So try to shift your thinking as you hear those kids playing outside. So I use an Insight timer, which is an app on my phone. I'm going to set for 20 minutes, and we're going to meditate. So let's sit up and get comfortable in our chairs. Sit up. If you haven't, get some life into you. Put your arms in the air. And let's, with intention, get present to this very moment. And the reason why I asked you to raise your arm in the air is just hold them and be still and notice the life forces holding them up. That your muscles became the servant for the life force to do the work. But without the life force, they wouldn't work. You wouldn't be here. You'd be dead. Physically, your body would be dead. But it's that life force within you and in me that's doing the hearing and the talk. It's that singular being, that one big infinite intelligence that we're all plugged into. All of life is plugged into it. It's the energy we live in. It's the creative energy we live in. Feel that. Now bring your hands to your heart. And allow yourself to get still. Just allow yourself to get still. And be present. Be present to this moment. And just notice how your mind might be thinking. And let it go. Just notice any judgments, any opinions, any stories that will be coming up. Just invite them into your heart and let them go. Let them dissolve into your heart. Welcome them. And then you might even notice your body, what you might be feeling. Maybe you're feeling a sense of scan your body. Take a moment to scan your body. And notice how you might be, where you might be carrying some emotions. Maybe some emotions of sadness. Maybe some painful emotions of despair and sadness and grief for all the losses. Maybe you're feeling angry with God, angry with the world. This big disruption. Welcome them all. Don't resist them. Welcome them. Welcome them into your heart and get present. Because that's the feeling that came up in the moment. That's the thought that came up in the moment. Just let it be in the moment and let it go.
It worked out one time. It kind of worked out one time. Ben technically won because you're supposed to build up, but there's a piece that you're doing where you could just chase them after and then you can
You've forgotten you can put your hands in a more comfortable place. And sometimes it helps just to Focus your mind's attention around your breathing. Just notice the breath coming in through your nostrils and down your throat, into your heart, mixing with your blood, going back out. The natural rhythm of your breath. And if you really want to get intentional about it, you might expand it a little bit. You might even count. Whatever it takes, gently takes, to bring your mind's awareness to this present moment. The power of this moment. Let go of any idea of achieving some form of state and allow whatever is to arise. And welcome them. Welcome whatever arises in the next 15 minutes. Welcome it and then let it go. Thought. Thank you. And drop it.
I'm gonna post the video on my second channel. Probably, well, what the combined a day is like probably 5 hours all the time. We mostly play either by ourselves or with our friends, or just for fun. Earlier, me and Michael did Creative Fill, which is a game mode where you go into a creative with different players. And we built in this game mode called VHC Build Fight in Creative. We wanted to back, and we built a base on the side of it, and we got some other guys to team with us, and we built a giant base together. And also feels good. So like if you can talk a lot, then you won't I'll make a TikTok on my make it where did this keep go? Where did this keep go? He thinks he's really good at both, but really not good at all. You could do like 190, you could do like 180, you could do like 180, and then just build a pair. Like I can do like 90 and no, this one is now I don't do it. Don't feel something from yeah, I'm like 20 guys. So high. No, it's called. Let's talk to my parents. No, it's probably tomorrow.
Allow the sound of the bell to wake you up from a trance. Sometimes we think we're meditating, but we're not. We're actually in a deep thought. So the purpose of that interval bell is to wake us up, to reset into a place of no thought, into spaciousness, the delight of unknowing. Welcome back. How was the journey? Where are you? What did you discover? What did you discover in this moment, in this experience of meditation and contemplative prayer? Anything you want to chat or say before we end? My encouragement is to take the next 15 minutes or so and get out your journal and reflect on the space you're in now, and maybe reflect on how you're feeling what you're going through. Sometimes it helps to write it in the third person, such as, today Martin's going through this experience. Martin is having this experience. Martin has the opportunity to do this. Martin learned this today. It's a way to, in some way, separate yourself, the human, from the being. By writing in the third person, the being in you, within you, can write about the human experience. What was your human experience in the last few minutes as you got still and listened? What was the human experience like for you? Yours is unique. Yours is beautiful. So that's your homework if you want some homework. How to get the most out of this power hour is to sit down with your journal and reflect on what was the human experience for you find out. See what comes up. If you got something else you want to say, and again, Hassan, thank you for joining us from Bahrain. What a joy, what a treat to have someone from the Middle East be with us today. That's a great joy. Um, may love and prosperity prevail. Thank you.